Up next on Art Rocks, well over half a century of success on the stages of Theatre Baton Rouge.
The season goes from August 1st through July 31st. The summer musical is still the show that is our big moneymaker each season. It makes up about 2/3 of the budget.
A true creative demonstrates that in the right hands, just about anything, even dried fruit, can be art.
The whole idea and concept that he's coming from, you can relate to the piece in your own way.
And the inspiring grandeur of St. John the Baptist Catholic Church in New Orleans. That's all about now on Art Rocks.
Like the impulse that drives an artist's creativity, Georgia Pacific's 850 Louisiana employees are driven to produce quality paper products for your home and business. Georgia Pacific is proud to support LPB and Art Rocks.
Art Rocks is made possible by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and by viewers like you.
Hello and welcome back to Art Rocks with me, James Fox-Smith, publisher of Country Roads magazine. Baton Rouge has proved fertile ground for people with a passion for live theatre, both on and off the stage. The city's premier community theatre, Theatre Baton Rouge, has been a beacon for the area's most talented performers, presenting high-quality community theatre for more than 70 years. And Theatre Baton Rouge continues to gain momentum.
Both a little scared, neither one prepared. Beauty and the Beast.
Mainstage musicals like Beauty and the Beast give Baton Rouge area thespians the chance to hone their craft, appearing in elaborate productions that are delivered to large, appreciative audiences. In the world of community theatre, such consistency and longevity, in a city with a population of less than 500,000 people, is a rare thing.
First of all, it was a huge honor to be cast as the Beast, just a huge iconic role that everyone recognizes all the way from their childhoods.
If she can't love me.
I have to give a voice that's big enough and scary enough to feel like I'm this monster, but I have to present it in a way that I'm not actually harming my own voice.
I'd like to see my father, please.
This is a Disney princess, so you have to get every quality and detail of their personality right.
Beauty and the Beast is one among hundreds of productions Theatre Baton Rouge has staged over 7 decades. Any play or musical comes with its own set of challenges, but staging Disney productions can be especially challenging.
You have to have great costuming, you have to have great lighting, you have to have great sets, and you have to have a great talent pool.
Theatre Baton Rouge has a small staff who work with a core of dedicated volunteers who breathe life into one show after another.
The season goes from August 1st through July 31st, but 13 shows per that 12-month period is still a lot. We're doing a lot of shows. It's a lot. We have a really dedicated staff. We have a lot of really dedicated volunteers. Doing more shows typically equals more money in the bank to produce the kind of shows that we want to produce. The summer musical is still the show that is our big moneymaker each season. Of the musicals, it makes up about 2/3 of the budget when we're talking musicals. It's a huge part of it. And the main reason is because we're able to do so many extra shows.
While shows like Beauty and the Beast can be big money makers, the company also spends more to bring them to the stage, particularly when it comes to building suitable sets.
There's a line in the play where Cogsworth, the gentleman that's turning into a clock, says to Belle that she should be impressed with the neoclassical Baroque architecture. So of course, first thing I had to do was research neoclassical Baroque architecture. And what I found with that was that it was very intricate, very, very detail-oriented. Lots of arches, lots of angles, lots of curves, lots of rounded edges.
While Kenneth Mayfield constructed the set, Crystal Brown was on the hunt for costumes.
We have thousands of articles of clothing. It scans many periods, many types of things. Naturally, you don't always have what you want. I found a theater in Maine that was running these costumes, and their costumes we found were excellent. There's no way we could have afforded to have the time or money to make these costumes. The fabrics they've used are very expensive, very luxurious fabrics, and the costumes are made very well.
While the actors are the most important and visible presence in any production, most performers on community theatre stages are volunteers, doing it for love, not money.
Community theatre is it's a volunteer thing. Our national theatre in America is community theatre, and it is kept alive by volunteers and the sheer will to want to do the arts. That's one of its biggest strengths, is when you get those people in here who are giving their time, a lot of time, to put these shows on and putting their blood, sweat and tears in it. You know it's pure passion.
The passion to act can take hold at a very early age.
I saw my first show on Broadway when I was 4 in New York. I thought, well, I really like this, so I might want to try it. So I auditioned for a few shows before I started really liking it. And then I was like, okay, this is the age that I really want to start doing this. So I auditioned for another show and I made it in.
At age 9, Molly Kate Scupion has already performed in 6 shows and is looking forward to her 7th. The acting bug didn't bite Lauren Smith until she was in 7th grade, but by the time she entered her senior year in high school, she was coming across as a seasoned pro in Beauty and the Beast.
You have to believe that you can do it, but also you have to listen to what the audience says as well. And I think I've always had that kind of mentality that there's always something to work on. There's always someone better than you, and you work to get there.
I think Lauren's overall ability is unlike anything I've seen from a 16-year-old girl.
I'm wearing who I want to be.
Her vocal ability is unbelievable. Her singing voice is astonishing. She's a really good dancer, and she's striving to get better and better and better. And she's a good actor. The main thing for me about Lauren that is the total package is she's so grounded, she's so focused, and she works so hard. Her talent does set her apart, but her work ethic is gonna be what makes her a star, because she will work harder than all of the people around her.
As actors vie for roles at Theatre Baton Rouge, they're following in the footsteps of a long line of people before them who moved on to far bigger stages.
We've had a lot of big names come through. Of course, Jamie Wax, who's now a CBS morning correspondent, did many one-man shows here.
I just like what I'm looking at.
He wrote the play Evangeline.
Serious about me now.
We also have Anna Andrikane, who actually played Belle on Broadway in Beauty and the Beast. She played Fantine in Les Mis. She played Esmeralda in The Hunchback of Notre Dame. She's done a huge amount of work on Broadway. We have Molly Rushing, who's currently in Anastasia on Broadway, of course, which just opened. She's in the ensemble, and she has an incredibly bright future ahead of her. We also want to expand our outreach capabilities. We would like to be touring our shows a little bit more on a regional and possibly national level. We would really like to get an artist in residency program going within the schools. It's based on the Kennedy Center model. We would like to be targeting schools that have less access to theater.
Dance with me?
Oh no, dance with her!
All year long, Theatre Baton Rouge mounts one sellout show after another. So to see who's in lights, in tights and on stage this month, visit theatrebr.org. No matter where you live in Louisiana, opportunities to connect with the arts are everywhere, if only you know where to look. So here's a list of some cool exhibits, festivals, concerts and tours coming up this week all around the state. To learn more about these and other events in Louisiana, keep your eyes peeled for a copy of Country Roads magazine. And while we're at it, LPB's Art Rocks website features an archive of previous episodes, so to see any episode again, just log on to lpb.org. Miami-born, New York City-based artist Daniel Arsham has won national renown for his daring sculptural and architectural works, which muddle our perception of recognizable structures and forms and make architecture do things it's not supposed to do. Straddling a line between art, architecture and performance, one recent Arsham piece resembled an archaeological dig. Excavating a trench in a gallery's floor, viewers would peer down to discover calcified artifacts of the 20th century. Here's a look.
Tonight we open with a major installation by Daniel Arsham. He is a Miami native who's come back to Miami for a major installation and homecoming.
It's a fictional archaeological site. I've been working for the last couple of years with this idea of generating objects that are objects, things from the present, things that we would all recognize, but produced in materials like volcanic ash and crystal that appear as if they're thousands of years old. So there's this kind of time confusion. And the excavation in the floor is almost like looking down into an archaeological site, but one that contains the objects that you know that are part of your everyday experience.
All of these objects are easily recognizable, and everyone kind of has a relationship with them in different ways. So even if you're not looking at them as the whole idea and concept that he's coming from, you can relate to the piece in your own way.
I selected objects that I felt were the most iconic things that people would recognize, and sort of a wide variety of types of media, sort of cultural signifiers, and things that I knew a wide swath of people would recognize and have a kind of connection with. I've never really worked in this context, on this scale. And then, of course, all of the physical making of all of these objects, which took, a year and a half, 2 years to actually physically produce. I'm kind of a perfectionist, so I knew exactly what this was going to look like beforehand. And we really, I worked through drawings and renderings to try and visualize the final outcome. You can't cut the floor open twice, so I had to make sure that it was exactly what I wanted. And it really does look like the original drawings that I made for it, 2 years ago.
To learn more, visit danielarsham.com. Our next artist begins her work by shopping for squash. For nativity scenes to domestic animals, Amy Knight has found ways to turn dried squash into modern art. Her story comes to us from Ohio.
Second two that I made after the draft, the rats. They're all dried gourds, so they're not going to rot, they're not going to mold or anything else. They're all wood burned. The Indian King's camel took me a week to do, just the week, because he was a two-humper and he has lots of hair growing out of him, and then, of course, he's got to have saddle and all that kind of stuff. And I look for specific shapes sometimes. Sometimes I go and something calls to me and says, I know that's a sheep, or I know that's an alligator, or whatever. And sometimes I just go looking for parts, like gourd stems or long neck gourds that I can use the long neck as legs on something. The loofahs make great sheep. Gourd seeds make ears and tongues sometimes. Gourd stems are legs and tails. A lot of the things that the kings bring are natural things that I've found outside, or I've found some strange pod from East Africa at the gourd show. It's interesting that when you open up a gourd, you never know what you're going to find inside. Sometimes the inside is a luminous color that looks almost silvery, and so you can use that. I got an angel that has wings and a halo out of that, and I did nothing to the inside of the gourd. That's the way it came. You never know what you're going to find out, and that's the exciting part, that every time that you open up a gourd, it's a brand new experience. 2 years ago, I added a queen. Instead of the 3 kings, I added a queen, an Egyptian queen. The angels all play traditional African instruments. The African king has traditional kente cloth for the mat that he puts his things on, and he wears a traditional kente cloth fabric. The same with the Asian king and the Indian king. The fabrics that they wear and the mats that they have their gifts on are traditional to that era or that culture. Every culture who knows this story is going to put it in context for them that's meaningful for them, whether it's an Alaskan nativity or whether it's a Chinese nativity. They're all going to be in. So this is an African nativity to me.
Coming home now for our Louisiana Treasure segment, the focus of which is one of the most beautiful churches in New Orleans, St. John the Baptist Catholic Church on Oretha Castle Haley Boulevard in the shadow of the Pontchartrain Expressway. The picturesque church was built in 1871. Some families reportedly donated personal jewelry, and the priest gave of his private wealth to help pay for construction. The architect was one Albert Dietal, a German immigrant known for his intricate brickwork and distinctive onion domes. The contractor was one Thomas Mulligan, an Irish descent.
It's mostly brick. In other words, brick and some wood. But they claim that there's as many bricks in the foundation as they are in the church itself. So the foundation is brick. I know a lot of people thought it might have been bales of cotton, but it's brick.
The church and accompanying school made an imposing pair, until the city chose to demolish the school to make way for construction of the Pontchartrain Expressway. St. John's was also slated for demolition, but the pastor, Father Arthur Screen, mounted an impassioned bid to save the church, fighting until the city backed down. Father Screen then used the compensation funds paid for the school's demolition to have the steeple gold-plated, a feature that has brought tremendous pride to both parishioners and the wider New Orleans community ever since.
He was at Notre Dame, and he saw a church there with a golden steeple. That's why when they tore down the school and the nuns' home to build this overhead expressway, that's when he got the money that he gold-leafed the dome.
It took more than 70 years to install all the stained glass windows in this church.
The 3 decades of the Rosary, that's what most of them are. There's 3 decades of the Rosary that are in the windows.
The church is a favorite venue for weddings, so long as either the bride or the groom is of the Catholic faith. The church conducts Mass each week at 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoons, and all the faithful are welcome. We're off now to Wisconsin to visit a photographer who captures the beauty around him that many folks seem to miss. James Meyer says he became a photographer by accident. Here's how.
I don't fancy myself as a photographer. I don't really see myself as an artist. I just saw myself as somebody walking out there taking pictures of things. And it was the response I got that propelled me to consider this to be something, maybe a gift I had or something that I should pursue. My name is James Meyer, and I'm a landscape photographer. When I say I'm a landscape photographer, I don't go take pictures of a forest. I try to take pictures of things that are part of people's lives that they maybe just miss every day because they're busy with life. I started doing photography when I was 18 or 19 and just found it interesting looking at things maybe a little differently than what is normally presented. I always find myself drawn to water, and I would go and take pictures of the sunrise or the geese or whatever. The lighthouse here in Port Washington, and I started posting pictures on Facebook. People found them nice, I guess, and started asking for more, and it just kind of took off from there. Wisconsin is interesting because the weather changes every day. You know, it's not like we're in California where it's going to be 80 and sunny. Tomorrow will be 80 and sunny. In Wisconsin, you have all the seasons, and each season presents an entirely different set of challenges, an entirely different look. Like most photographers, I prefer sunrise and sunset. And so you have that hour on each side or half hour on each side of the sun moving up or down to take your pictures. And it could be like today, for example, is sunny and windy. Yesterday was cloudy and drab. It's two different types of pictures, it's two different shots. I like architecture, especially old buildings. I like old downtowns. I like the Milwaukee River area just because there's so many different buildings and so many different contrasts. You have the smoothness of the water, you know, the rigidness of the buildings, you know, the walkway, just very interesting. I do judge the angle of the sun, whether it's sunrise or sunset, and I know generally where I want to be. Really, I'll visit 3 or 4 spots and just find which calls my name, you know, which pulls me in. And I may just walk through an area and I'll just stop, and that's where I'll take pictures. Generally, I'll take 10 maybe, just getting the exact mood that I'm looking for based upon the sky or the waves or, you know, just what's going on. Knowing that on a certain day, based upon the weather conditions, I may have an hour. I don't want to waste my shots, and I want to get what people may find interesting or near and dear to them, you know, with the scenery that I'm at. This piece is called Calatrava Drama. I took it behind the Harbor House, and so I know that general area that you have the walkway by the Discovery World is probably an important area to a lot of people. So I really wanted to catch something from the other side of the art museum, down by the water, looking back at the art museum. It isn't necessarily a very romantic view. It's a little different because there were clouds rolling in, and it was a little, I don't know, gothic, and just not something that I think most people think, oh, look, the storm is coming. I'm going to go see what it looks like, you know, down on the lake. Which to me, that's the more interesting part, is showing you something that you may not necessarily see every day. Once I take a photo, like a kid in a candy store, I want to just get home and see what I got. I do try to compose and do some in-camera editing, not very much though. Usually I'll run the process of editing it in Lightroom. I may take 10 pictures, let's say, and each one is slightly different. Maybe I'll focus on a different area, or I'll change my f-stop or something, and then I'll basically look at each one and figure out which one to me captures what I was feeling while I was standing there. And then I'll play with the sliders. You know, I'll increase, you know, some of the vibrance. I'll increase certain colors, or I'll decrease, maybe add a little bit more contrast. And then generally, I'll have a finished product, if you will, finished. I'll post it on one of the many social channels and see what people think. When somebody views one of my photos, I would like them to think that's how they either remember it or wish to remember it, whatever the scene is. Just try. There's no right, there's no wrong. Try, learn, ask questions, find what inspires you, find what is interesting to you. Just trust yourself and take the steps forward. Don't be shy about it. But when you take a picture, that's not the end of it, that's simply the beginning.
And that is that for this edition of Art Rocks. But don't despair, you can always watch episodes of the show at lpb.org/artrocks. And if you want more, Country Roads Magazine is a great resource for making the most of Louisiana's vibrant arts and culture, close to home and all around the state. So until next week, I'm James Fox Smith, and as always, thanks for watching.